Well, briefly, Khalifi Bede. I'm a performance expert. I'm a practitioner. So I don't speak in the normal sense of people lecturing and giving different things. It's about communication. It's about everybody that's involved. It's about being in the moment. It's about the present. It's about change. It's about growth. Um, and whenever people come together, there's an opportunity for something to happen, right? Either something happens in you or something happens in someone else. And so inside of that, in order for us to harness the power that comes in that, we have to think about something. And I have a series that, we're going to do these on Thursdays, that deals with getting what you command, getting what you want, and getting what you know you deserve, right? And so inside of this, there's one main fact that's going to come out of that, right? And so what is that fact? So whatever you have the audacity to make known to yourself and to the world, you will achieve, right? Now think about that for a moment. However you come to whatever understanding, whatever overstanding, whatever understanding, whichever way you come about it is going to produce a result. Because each person is perfectly designed to get the result that they get. So however you came about to formulate who and what you are, it's going to resonate in your conversation. It's going to resonate in your experience of anxiety or not. It's going to resonate in your ability to build relationships with other people. It's going to resonate in the way that you build relationships with yourself. And yes, relationships, because there's more than one aspect of you. You're just experiencing it as an identity, however you got there, whatever it is, if it's working for you or not, if it's healing or not. Everyone arrives at an identity, because that's the way our brain is designed. That's the way we function, right? Yes. And so think about this for a second, right? I have the audacity to make known to myself and others what I want, right? So what's at the heart of that, though? What's at the heart of being able to have the audacity to even declare something? What's at the heart of that? Anybody know? What's at the heart of that? You have to want to do it. Now, what's...
It has to be there. It has to be something that drives you to want to have the audacity to challenge something or do something. There has to be a passion within inside of you. There has to be something that sparks that.
Okay. And what's at the root of that?
Intention.
What's at the root of intention?
Knowing.
What's at the root of knowing?
Believing.
What's at the root of believing?
Being.
What's at the root of being?
The all.
Well, there's a step before that. We're all in the all. We're all a part of the source of existence. What is even allowing you to contemplate that right now?
Your brain.
What's at the root of your brain?
Your mind.
What's at the root of your mind?
The body.
Consciousness.
Consciousness.
The body.
Right? If you weren't a conscious being, none of this matters. You don't have any wants. You don't have any intentions. All of that is based off of your consciousness. Right? That aspect of you in this realm, in order for you to change your functioning, in order for you to enhance your functioning, your performance, no matter what you're going to do, it's all going to stem at that consciousness. Now, what is, like, for instance, human beings, in terms of the periodic table and everything else, we refer to the atom, right, as being the lowest level system that starts things in existence. You go from hydrogen to lithium, so on and so forth, to create everything you see around here physically comes from those elements, right? What is the root element, to use the word element, at consciousness? What's that root? Hydrogen. Yeah. That atom is on the physical side. There's things inside of it that's a little different, but we're referring to your consciousness. What is that lowest block or lowest level that everything comes out of in your consciousness, for your consciousness to work?
The cell.
The cell? What cell? What's at that root?
I don't know. For some reason, I keep saying the body. The body's because the reason why I say that is because without, you have to start with the body. In other words, you can have your level of consciousness, but if you're not eating right,
Mm-hmm.
your diet isn't right, you can talk a talk, but that's all it is.
Okay.
When you put things to action, okay, your body's without your consciousness is just a level of state of nothingness that no one knows about until it manifests through what you do through your body, your hands.
Okay.
So,
Okay. And that's what I'm talking about, is that nothing
right.
to something, right? That's where we're going. But the body has a root. So what is it that everything inside of that consciousness builds off of? That gets you to your wants, your intentions, your passion. Huh?
Embryo.
So
We're going to keep it on terms of things that we can see and touch and feel, that we can act upon, right? And then we'll tie that into what a soul is. We got to first deal with what we can motivate with, right? No other takers? Sound.
Oh, okay.
Right? So even before you get to anything else inside of that consciousness, inside of once the explosion of things as matter, all matter came about, whatever that explosion that also takes place inside of each body, in order for that baby to be born, those cells came together and was an explosion, right? And then it started to grow. But all of these things came out of sound. So to have that want is that sound that's in your head, like I want something. We start to build from that lowest level of your consciousness. And so why do I bring this up? Why is that? What's even the point of that? What do you think isn't even the point of talking about what's at the lowest block of your consciousness?
Foundation, right?
Foundation?
And that's where the root, right? So push everything else up to make it manifest.
Okay. What else? Anybody else? We're all readers and students of life. Communication. So what's the idea behind communication and putting meaning to sound and putting sound into the source point of our consciousness? What is that for? How can we use that? Language. And what is it about language and communication?
Conversing with one another through what? Tones, vibrations, frequencies.
Okay, so going back to what you talked about with the body. Where does the body come from?
Interaction.
Well, the body comes from the neutrons and the atoms and
Right, from those building blocks.
building blocks, right?
Hydrogen, to helium, to lithium, beryllium, so on and so forth. All of these things come together. So now as a conscious being, things matter. A monkey or squirrel isn't sitting there contemplating how they're doing things, or they wouldn't do most of the things they do. Right? Ants aren't sitting there contemplating those things because they would take us over. They're like 1/8 of the the planet's weight. Right? So it's our consciousness and that sound. Everything that we do goes back to that sound. Disagreement on that. I don't want to move forward without.
Oh no, I agree.
Right? Share, brother.
No,
No. That thought that came up. Share that sound that came up.
Say that there isn't a disagreement. It's
Right.
just still listening
For sure.
and understanding of the generalization of the conversation. That makes sense.
Okay. Well, I don't want you to think that it's a generalization. I am specifically speaking about how sound is going to deal with how you function as a human being. In order to get to higher functioning, it's going to start with how you relate, or you mentioned language, communication, how you deal with those signals. That sound is going to determine the way that you function. When we started with looking at wants, intentions, passion, how you put all of these things together is going to be very specific, right? Because you're always transmitting and you're always receiving, right? And so with that in mind, we talked about nothing earlier. You mentioned about nothingness and things coming together. So you hear people say a glass being half full or glass being, half empty, right? Does that truly make sense? Does that make sense in our realm of existence?
Paradox.
It's perception in my eyes.
Right.
So yes, they both make sense to me just off the understanding it's all on that person's perception.
Exactly.
Do you see it half full? Do you see it half empty? Do you it's really up to the person and how their perception of things can be.
Exactly. And sound is going to come back to that one sense that you just referred to as perception. Perception is the one sense. If I touch something, it's literally going into my brain. It's, if I smell something, it's a touch. Go ahead.
But how does that interact with sound? Sound
That's
is
what I'm-
also frequency.
Right.
So how I see sound and frequency, it's just like a radio. If you have a radio and you turn it to the frequency, you're on 419, but
Yeah.
I'm on a frequency 390.
Right.
I'm not going to be able to hear you,
Not
or
at all.
see you, or anything
Not
of
at
that
all.
nature. So when it comes down to it, sound and frequencies, you can vibrate at a frequency that's higher to people to where certain people just don't see you.
Exactly.
Because they
Yeah.
literally cannot, they don't feel you, they don't, none of that. Then,
Right.
then they turn, oh my goodness, I didn't even see you there.
Uh-huh.
That's because literally the vibration and the frequencies, you're on two different tunes.
Exactly.
Now, here's the amazing thing about sound and frequencies that I interact with, or I really just enjoy. You can be on a frequency or vibration. Now, you may not know what frequency exactly that you're at, but think about it like this. There could be somebody all the way across the world, and if we're on the same frequency, I can think about that person, and that person may call me.
Right.
So stuff like that, that's where I'm big on sound and frequency. So
For sure.
now I'm just listening and trying to get an understanding of, once again, the general overall,
Gotcha.
the topic of
Right.
what we got going on.
Okay, got you. Now, the general topic is community, right? And it takes a body of people able to communicate on the same frequency. But part of the problem is inside of ourselves, we're not always on the same frequency based upon the foods we eat, because things are energetic, our moods. There's a lot of things going on inside of us. Everything I'm coming from is first from the person and moving out. So the perception that I was getting at is, how does that relate to sound? Because everything that you use with your perception is going to be on sound. Your feelings, you want to separate the feelings from touch, but it still is perception, is going to come back to you as sound, right? So you're going to experience it, but you're going to, I feel a certain way. It's going to become sound in the sense of language, because your body physically communicates. When you eat food, there's going to be signals, there's going to be communication, there's constant things through your body, and everything that happens to you physically is also happening to you mentally, right? There's rules and regulations. So we get back to that sound, we get back to that perception. So perception is going to be based upon that learning. So how are we using the way that we communicate with ourselves? Because we're going right back to, I have the audacity. So what is this giving me this audacity? This audacity is my consciousness. And the fact that I am naturally in this realm of existence, giving a path to pursue something, right? I must travel. Because in order for me to eat, in order for me to drink, all of this stuff's going to come back to traveling. So where's all of this going? It's going right back to that sound. Sound has a reason. Energy is purposeful, right? Energy has a purpose. And we have to identify within ourselves through our ability, which is our consciousness, to identify what we're going to command of ourselves. But before we ever get to that point, we're going to be exposed to our parents. We're going to get exposed to a society if we get put in school. We're going to be exposed to the people that we sit around, that we all of these things are going to expose the way that we use the sound that's inside of our head that nobody else can hear, right? That's that sound that you're screaming in your head, everything that's going on. It's that experience-less aspect of you that others can only get through your use of communication.
That's so deep.
Right?
Because I experience that all the time. Like, if you and I are conversing with one another, right? And you say, girl, in my mind, and I said, oh, and you be like, oh my God, how did you know that? And that happens to me all the time. People be like, oh my God, she said, I said, no, don't do that, because you have it too. You just wasn't, there was a time where I wasn't aware of it. And I couldn't understand how some people would say, this girl would say, when I was little, she said, oh, you got a F-U-C-K face, right? And I came home saying, Mom, why she said I got a face? My mother was like, stop saying that. I said, but she said F-face, and I kept saying F. My mother said, stop saying that. I said, well, what's it? So it took me to get a picture of myself when I was younger. My facial expressions, sometimes I don't have to say anything. My facial expression says it all. My eyes. Someone told me, you need to cover your eyes with your eyes. Tells a story. So when he's talking about that tone, that vibration, that frequency, and it's just second nature to me, and when he said that, I said, oh my God. That's what it is, that level of consciousness that take you, that's just beyond here. That when I'm conversing with you, and we just on this energy, we just on this frequency, we on this level of vibration that we can communicate. And then when you start saying to me, yeah, girl, and I'm like, yeah, girl, and then I start telling you some things about yourself that how did you know that? It's because it's coming from someplace, up here, that I hear, and then when I start telling you, I'll be like, hey girl, I don't know how I know, and it's just so natural that it's just, when I think about it, like when he said to I just got spooky. I just like, oh.
You're right. That's the power of it.
Yes.
That's the sound.
Yes,
that's beautiful.
it's deep. Yeah, like
But before I get into that sound, I don't want to get into the physics of it yet. I want us to first deal with it on the human level of how we use it, right? Because everything we're going to discuss is how we put it into practice, right? Because we can sit and have a discussion on how sound works, the rate that you're able to hear tones and so on and so forth. But that's not where we're going yet. So as I said, the whole topic is community, how we commune, how we start to connect and link, right? So to where I was going in reference of getting to that communication, talking about our perception, talking about initially being exposed to our parents or the caregivers, to our siblings. We get exposed to the society through school and everything else. All of these things start to give us things, let's just use the term things, objects in our minds, right? That start to have influence over how we see ourselves, on how we talk to ourselves, how we identify caring, love, respect, pain, how we have to survive in those initial environments are all taking place with our consciousness. Now, inside of our consciousness, we are all plagued, or I want to say plagued because we are inside of a game, but we are all inside of the source of existence. So imagine that a pool, right? And when you're inside of a pool, you're touching. You can see how your movements touch everything. But because our eyes only see it like 440 nanometers per second squared, and we can't see things below that wavelength, then we're not able to see those wavelengths as you mentioned earlier, right? We can experience them though. And so when we start talking about that experience, what we start to see and interpret and get from everybody else starts to go into this audacity. What am I saying? By the time you're 7 years of age, you've already started to have a concrete sense of the world and yourself in it. So going back to that sound, by that time you hit 7, the way that you speak to yourself, the way that you communicate to yourself is going to identify how you see the world and how you see yourself in that world, right? And so sound is important because there are concepts that are going to guide the way you use yourself. So let's pause there for a second. Let's say we're creating a community, right?
Right.
What would be the key requirements for citizenship in your community? What would be key requirement? You're recruiting people for your community. What's a key element?
Key element?
Yeah.
Discipline.
Discipline. What would you say?
Communication.
Communication. What would you need for your community? Effective leadership. What would you need?
There's no one thing.
No, say what you. I didn't say name one. But I mean, whatever it is that's necessary to be in your community.
Self-control.
Okay. How about your community?
Willingness
Okay.
to do, to learn, to give, to practice, to educate, to lead.
Okay. So in order to get entrance into each of your communities, do I already have to be there?
No.
So what would be necessary? What is in place for that person to get to what is necessary to be in your community?
Leadership. Has to be somebody there that is, you don't have to know everything, but if you know just a little bit and you're willing to share it, somebody has a mentor. You know?
Okay.
There's always a mentor aspect there.
Right.
So also examples, you know, so by bringing someone into this community, I will show them the best that I know how until the consciousness takes over, if that's what they're supposed to be doing, because you never know. You might have somebody that there's certain general things, self-control, willingness to learn, and all these other things, but what about, let's get to the nitty-gritty, hunting, you know, or something of that nature. That's going to be something more so specific. If somebody's not passionate about hunting, or they don't really have the desire to do it, they're not going to be the best hunter. Doesn't mean they can't learn the skill.
Right.
But their passion might be, or their niche may be healing, you know, maybe in the medical field, something of that nature. So it's like having the ability to teach someone, and it's definitely a best thing when you have a mentor, somebody that you can go to and get an idea to see how something is done versus just, you know, going through things. But because life can be the best teacher as well, you know, just going through experiences, and then you just kind of learn from there, just going through things. Like for instance, I don't know how many people are gonna pick this up, but say for instance there's a woman that wants to meet a man, right?
Yeah.
She said, I want this type of guy. I want this guy that's smart and educated and does this and does that, X, Y, and Z. Why can't I find him? And then I would go to that woman and say, well, are you putting yourself in positions to find him? What do I mean by that? Where's the places that man would go? Does that man go to the library? Does he go to Starbucks? Does he work out? Is he at the gym? So you want to start to place yourself in those areas to be able to put yourself in position to find what you're looking for.
Right.
You know, so sometimes life can throw you things like that. I I just kind of went on a little rant.
No, you good.
You did excellent.
This what family's about.
We be there. We be in all those places.
But yeah, so I mean, it they don't have to automatically know it.
Right.
But at the same time, it's best if they see someone that's doing it, you know, that they can learn from X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z. The only way that it wouldn't work is if they just wasn't receptive of any of it.
Right. So if I came to the door and was like, I want admittance to your community, I'll go through those processes. What would keep me out? What would you at the door? I come there and say I want admittance to your community. What would say no?
There would be no no.
Okay. How about you? Somebody came to the gate of your community, said I want entrance.
You just can't get in. I mean, you got code of ethics and disciplines and morals there. So you got to interview. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You just come on in.
Okay.
It ain't for everybody.
Okay, got it. So your community, I come to the door. I want to get in. What are we looking at?
Okay, it would have to be how I converse with you, things that we converse about, what we talk about. You know, I would listen to how you speak. I give you the floor. Tell me whatever it is that you can tell me about yourself. Like if I have certain, like he said, if you have certain guidelines, you have certain rules within your community, okay, and you're telling me, well, you know, I see you have an aggressive tone, you know, and we're conversing with one another. So I see, okay, you're argumentative, you know. So all of these things I'm putting on this side as I put on this side. You say, okay, well, you know, well, I think maybe this might not be the place for you right now. You know, I think, you know, maybe you need to experience a little bit more things, you know, because it's not just me.
Right.
It's like we have a whole lot of other people here that he may rub the wrong way that needs to be here, you
Right.
know, and so those things I guess basically have his tones, his vibrations, his
Okay.
frequencies.
So sis, I'm standing at the gate of your community. I can just walk in. What are we looking at?
I wouldn't have any. I wouldn't object because I feel like if a person is trying to get into my community or whatever, it might be something or others within the community that will be able to, you know what I'm saying, give to that person or whatever. So I'm not objecting. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. You still with yours?
Yeah.
Okay.
I still stay.
So I come to your gate. I want to enter into your community. What you got for me? Say it again.
What is your why?
I want to be a member. I want to join this community. Y'all look like y'all doing things. I want to come here and be happy.
Yeah, that's a good one. Why? Why?
I
That says it all.
I can see that you want to join, or else you wouldn't be at my doorstep. But why do you want to join? Do you know about our community? What
I want to feel better about myself, and I think that you guys will help me learn that here.
Are you willing to give
I'm gonna give all the time I got.
all the time that you have?
I'm here naked. You can have all that you need.
Come as you are.
For me, there has to be a willing. You
I'm
have
willing.
to want to give, not just take.
I will give everything I have.
How about change?
Yeah.
Are you willing to change?
It's all about that willing. Willing to learn, willing to teach, willing to change, willing to
Yep.
lead. All of that.
So can I come in? Huh? That's what it's all. So can I come in now? I mean, I'm willing to come in and do all them things.
Yeah. The elders would definitely watch you.
Okay, good deal. So now I'm gonna add a little piece of the story. Okay, I plan to get over. Right? Came to get there and see what I can get for me. How I can thrive. Right? I don't care how it impacts anybody else. I need to see how I'm gonna thrive. So now I'm at your gate and you got that information. Now what?
You got the interview, so I already know you can't come in. For everybody, I told you that.
Yeah, you already gave you on some metaphysicals on. So, how about you, sis? I just said that. So you gonna take a chance on me? Okay. You gonna take a chance on me?
It's not even about taking a chance. It's what I'm allowing because I have to understand that grace was given to me.
For
So
sure.
I'm gonna give grace to that person. If they choose, yes, you can come on in, brother. Come
Right.
in, learn what you can learn, take what you can take.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're not harming nobody else, as long as you're not doing anything to stealing other people's property and stuff like that, come on in. You want to learn as much as you can, eat it up. You wanna go and stoop and see how Miss So and So make the weaving and pots and whatever else she make. Take it, do it, obtain the knowledge that you want to obtain.
Right.
But I'm gonna be honest. Being in my community, you ain't gonna have no choice but to elevate because ascension is real. We are constantly ascending and growing. Evolution.
Right.
So whatever you want to grab and you can take, please.
I want to grow
do
in my ability to get over on people and get that land you talked about. I want to be able to cleverly get them to give me their land, so I wind up owning all the land. Therefore, I can have a corner in your community that everybody's going to need me.
Well, see, you can in the society that we in mine,
Mm-hmm.
that would be your own personal preference. I don't see how you would do that, but you can feel free and try and see if you're successful. I doubt you'd be successful, you know, but I'm just saying, coming from, because I'm not speaking as if I'm from the 1980s.
For sure.
I'm speaking as if what the consciousness
You're
that
calling me
is
old.
within my, you know, vessel now, you know. I'm just saying that I don't really see how that could happen, but if it does happen, everything happens for a reason. Karma is real. I don't have to worry. All I have to do is just experience what you're doing and pay attention. Now, at the same time, you know, it would suck if you was to come in and do anything harmful to my people, but you've already just told me, you know, you see, you know, you want to learn and try to get over on people. That's something consciously that your conscience would deal with you with. I don't have to deal with it.
It's not going to do anything for me. That's what I want to do. I see it as right. I see it as my birthright to take the energy of other people, and the more I do that, shows my ability to conquer others, and that's my strength. My strength is found in me taking over on you.
No, you can't join my
Out the
community.
door.
No, you can't come in.
I mean, if you still not knowing that, you know, you put us in a weird situation, because not knowing that, I'm still letting you in, and even with knowing that, I'm still gonna let you in.
Right.
You know,
Beautiful.
but I don't know how, because you just told me that. So it's like if you just told me that and everybody else is there, yeah, I'm gonna let you in, but good luck getting anybody to show you anything. You know.
So people that's around there, they're going to change their nature to deal with me now, because they're doing community things, but now they're going to have to purposefully work against me or not let me do things. What's going to be the impact of that?
How are they purposely not interacting with you?
Yeah.
So I can just sit there and just experience you coming in. Now, if you're coming in, what you saying you want to learn, and so you can get over on people, well, the best bet is you just gonna have to listen in on any conversation, because no one is going to see you at your vibration that you're at. You probably won't even understand the words that's coming out of certain people's mouth with that type of vibration.
Right.
So I'm just saying, it's going to be something where you're either going to be forced out on your own, or it's going to be something where you're going to have a mental check on your consciousness, or your consciousness is going to get to you to the point where you ain't sleeping at night because of what you're ambitious in. You can tell me, I just want to do this and that's my power, but at the same time, there is nobody that does those things and can honestly sleep at night. Or
I disagree.
you know,
Yeah.
some people
Just in my own personal, private, psychological, mental health practice, I can tell you that does exist.
They can sleep, but it's something that you
Yeah.
got to understand. There is psychologically something there that will cause them to have, I just say, turmoil within themselves.
Okay.
No matter how they understand it, they can explain, oh, I feel great, I feel good, yeah. But I can feel the vibration. I can hear what sound is coming out of his mouth. And the sound that's coming out of his mouth is not adding up or being on the same capacity of the frequency of vibration that I'm currently feeling.
Right.
So it can go there.
All right. So, no, I get it. So this was kind of a thought exercise in the sense that now the reality is that there are people who don't feel any kind of way about that. They have no inner turmoil. That's their creation. You understand? At the same time, you can have brain damage, right? Or meaning that there's something wrong with the links and connections in your brain that could have came about by any kind of purpose that you don't experience those things. There's people who can understand facial expressions. There's people that can't tell your mood, right? So there's a lot of things that human beings have. And so what I was getting at is the way that we're going to communicate and the way we're going to do things and how our environment actually is going to impact us by the way that sound of what I accept and what I don't accept. And how about a person who is legitimately saying, these are the things I'm going to do in your community, saying their agenda, because in our society, we say put your best foot forth is what you will hear, right? Don't say be your real self. Come lie to me. Put your best foot forth, something that you use 1 or 2% of the time, right? And so when I say my agenda, you have a choice, right? And so people as children start to learn that. So that's what we're going to go back to. When they're at this stage, says, Mom, Dad, I want to hurt the cat. Oh, I give them a lecture on how that's not right. I give them all of these different things. I don't validate that they have a thought that's theirs and take them through a process to understand what is taking place and for them to make a choice. Go ahead.
How do you know that thought is theirs?
Okay, I'm saying it's theirs from the fact that they're sharing it.
But how do you not know something didn't drop that thought in their mind?
Okay, let me go right to the beginning. Nobody has a thought. Everything is within the all. So nobody owns anything. Nothing is owned. There is no ownership. If we're going to go there, there's no ownership.
Okay, so where did the thought come from?
It was shared from the child.
Where did the child get the thought from?
So now we can get into that. That's going to take us to another path. I can give it to you. Thought come by way of everything we felt, heard, seen, tasted. All of those things that took place starts to come into the mind. And then the mind starts to make, and that consciousness starts to make certain connections to it based upon their level of experience. And so from that level of experience is what they're going to give sound to. And out of that vocabulary or whatever they've learned, that's what they're going to share from. But that takes us away from where we're going.
Okay, so my thing is, what do you tell a child that comes to you and says, hey, I had a thought of killing myself?
Right. That's what I was getting to.
That's not from an experience of what they've been through. Because, yes, that can be implied. Definitely. It could definitely be implied. On another level of this thing, sometimes thought comes from sound or frequency, vibration, because you got to understand where you're swimming in. So if it's possible for me to get sound and vibration to somebody across the world that I'm just thinking about,
right?
You know what type of frequency I'm on. Imagine, let's say for instance, if you are that child had, you know, X, Y, and Z things that they had went through, but they're around or something isn't right and their frequency is lower. Right. So now what pool are they swimming in? So when I said where did the thought come from, there's duality in all things. So there's good and there's evil. There's bad, good. You get what I'm saying? And
then there's the source. Well, go ahead.
Right. And I'm not going to go into that just yet, but I'm just saying. So with that being said, the thought could have came from an outside source to that child based off the frequency that they were vibrating at that time.
Got it.
So that's why I'm saying there. How can you equivalate a child saying, "Hey, I just had the thought of killing myself," to the things and everything that they went through, when they didn't go through certain things and bad things like that, but that thought still persisted. So where did that thought come from?
Okay, so as I gave the scenario about us being in the pool, there are things constantly coming through us. There's sound waves from the radio. You might be sitting, like older folks know, you be sitting in your room, and all of a sudden a song comes into your head. You turn on the radio, that song is playing, right? We get all of that. Now I can go through all of that, right? And that there's different levels, things coming through, because we're constantly being bombarded by frequencies, sound coming from other planets. It's constantly coming through the earth, right? So every 4 minutes and some change, energy is coming from the sun as well. A lot of stuff is coming to us. I got that. But the point I'm making, regardless, to keep the conversation going, regardless of where that thought came from, it was shared by that child, and that child was ready to act upon it. Okay? Can we agree on that? Tell me what you need to respond to. Give me the question I need to respond to.
The generalization of what we were just saying with the child and the thought process. Where did the thought come from?
Okay.
You can't
So
just say it came from what. I'm not gonna say what you can't say, but it's just the fact of X, Y, and Z and what they went through. You know, that's
for the argument, let's say that sound came from Sirius. Let's say the sound came from their grandmother, who still has energies floating around. Let's say that sound came from the radio. Let's say the sound came because the kid was taking lithium that they're able to pick because they got more metals in their body. They're able to pick up stuff coming off the radio. Sound came from wherever those places may be.
So that kind of, I'm not gonna say debunks, but it kind of, because no, it can.
But I'm only saying that in order for us to get to actually where the process was going.
Go ahead. Let's keep going.
Because where the child, okay, let's say,
But it's a real scenario. It's not stuff that
right.
It's really happening.
I'm referring to this is actual everyday life. This is exactly how the brain is receiving and doing. That's all I'm referring to. So let's just say, give me where you want the thought to come from, and I'll use that. That this kid said that they want to put this cat, they want to hurt this cat. Tell me where that thought needs to come from for me to put it into this story.
Well, for me, my experience of things, that thought came from a lower level entity.
Okay.
Of some sort. Like you say, it could come from the
Six ether.
You know, either way.
Okay.
But that's where that thought came from.
Okay. So I have a child comes to me and they receive this message to them, sound, vibration, what have you, from a lower level entity. And this child says, I want to hurt this cat. Right? Is that okay? Okay. So now I refer to the kid and say, you know what? You're a bad person. Bad people want to hurt animals, so on and so forth. Right? And so now this child who was sharing what came to them, right? Open and honestly, now just received feedback from that. Correct? And now this feedback is going to have this child do one or two things, right? And say this happens more than one time. One or two things are going to happen. This child is now going to have to be clever to get stuff done. I can hurt the cat, but how can I hurt the cat without anybody knowing about it, right? So I didn't take because I'm fast tracking this. If you have any questions, please. So now this is what starts to take place. And so this starts to become part of how this child refers to the world. So now this child goes back and now they're confident in who and what they are. I'm going to come to your community and I'm going to tell you that I am a manipulator. I'm going to tell you all of these things. And is there a place for me in your community? I'm going to be open and honest to that, right? Because each of us go through a process on how we live our lives. Going back to that consciousness, going back to, having the audacity to declare your truth and to activate your success and look at success as a progressive realization of your most worthy idea, whatever that idea is for that person, right? And having that confidence, they're going to declare it. Now I'm saying, when we start going back to that consciousness, whatever you declare consciously, or you arrive at it subconsciously because it became a part of your memory, it's been encoded in your brain a certain way, right? And now it's the way that you respond to yourself in the world. This child becomes an adult. This person is going to come to you looking for a place to be, and what is missing in our communities that won't allow us, for those who said they won't let them in, what does this person do? Because he's going to provide a space to try to, he's going to provide community still when this person says what they say. And everybody is being, and correct me if I'm wrong, everyone else is going to do their work and keep it in their mind that this person is how they are, and we're not going to put ourselves in a bad situation because we know how you are. Is that?
No. We know how you are. We see how you are. We can still give you love and show you love.
Mhm.
What do you do with that? Now, you gonna cuss us out for saying, hey, man, that's your prerogative. But I
Right.
still love you. Because who knows? Maybe that's what they were missing. Love can change a lot of things. But I'm just saying, like you say, some people just drilled that way. They
Right.
like, man, what you talking about, man? Hey, how do I make this that? I'm still gonna tell you. But see how things work. I can tell you it still won't work for you. And that's just the reality of some things that I've come to experience. Now, you do got some folks that they agenda, they got created, and I don't know what part, because I can't speak for the person that goes in and shoots up a school.
Right.
But notice, I said as long as you're not doing bodily harm to anybody else,
Right.
hurting anybody, killing anybody, or doing anything with anybody else's property.
Right.
You can tell a person, hey, go ahead, tell them you want to do X, Y, and Z, and you want to take from them, and whatever, however they want to put it. If they work with you, they work with you, but it's still a mentality that we come in with love. So
Right.
whatever your agenda is, that can be your agenda. We ain't gonna treat you no differently. You hungry, we still gonna make you a plate.
Right.
Everybody else working, but you don't, that's fine. You're just going to have to experience and see what that's like.
Yeah. And so what all of this comes back to is that the source of existence allowed that capacity to exist. And everything in our existence is based on rules. The way the sound moves, the way that you absorb it, you have a capacity to make a decision within a certain spectrum. Some people got a higher spectrum than others. The way that your DNA comes together, the way that you're able to absorb sound, the way that you're able to, all of these things come into play, but there's rules to existence. So in order for us to communicate, we have to learn to activate the rules that's going to support the outcomes that we're looking for. So in order for me to get what I command, whatever directives or authority that I'm giving out, I have to be able to articulate if I'm going to activate it. So a lot of people want better, because as you mentioned, you went back to, saying about generalizations. Only thing that's going to be general about what I said is just saying this child. But there is a process through the eternal laws of existence that takes place for humans. And part of what we've done as a people over millions of years was pass down our learning. That's oral traditions, the science of living. I don't want people, confuse science with a stage of science. And we got physics and everything else, but the science in terms of that research of attempting to find an answer, right? And doing that work, right? And so we've always done that. And so we come back to this sound in which our creation comes out of. And our consciousness is what gives us that ability to have an audacity. It gives us that ability to create the life that we want. It gives us the ability to recognize when we have pain. Because all of us that have a healthy brain, right, have a sense of belonging, right? And you want to be amongst other people. That's part of our DNA. And so inside of that, we've learned how to communicate. So this child who wants to do certain things, we didn't take the time to teach them, right, how to tap into wherever that thought came from. Tap into a methodology to tap into their motive, their passion, their center being. Everything that you do as it starts into that sound and everything else is coming from your center being. Every human being is born with a set of values. I can get into that very specifically, but it all initially surrounds your ability to survive. That's written inside of your DNA. So when we start looking at community, because family is the lowest level of community as a unit. And so everything I say come back to the topic is how we come together. We're going to have to start first and foremost understanding the way that the rules of existence support healing interaction, right?
Yeah.
It supports, even if this person comes and says, I'm a particular way, I'm a pedophile, I'm a this, all of these different things. You have to already have rules. That's the way we're in this realm on how it goes. If your stuff is, look, we're going to interview, there's no place for you, and you have a system that supports that, fine. Same thing, fine. Each person has to have a system so that it can flow. So when something goes wrong, you're able to identify a specific place. If my phone don't come on, first thing they're going to do is check that button. Then they're going to keep tracking. There's a schematic. Things work that way, even though we are in science figuring out how all of these things work exactly. But inside of that, we start with that first perception. How is my perception working with me and my personal motive? Right? And there's 4 elements dealing with your consciousness, the truth, liberty, and then transmutation. Right? Everybody knows what transmutation is, right?
I would like to know what that means.
Okay, so transmutation is when you change one thing to another thing. All right? And so we talk about mental transmutation. That's being able to take whatever you're experiencing it and putting it into your system. So if anger isn't something that you want to make decisions from, then once you start to experience anger or those triggers and those signals that come to you for whatever desire or need or something's not being met in the moment, and there's a host of things that go along with that, just making it brief, mental transmutation is, let's say my first state of mind was success reasoning, right? So in my mental transmutation, I'm going to go through my personal process of using my progressive realization of my most worthy idea and how I get to a conclusion that supports whatever that purpose is. So I'm going to take that, whatever I'm going through in that context, I'm going to put it in context to that success reasoning. Then let's say I need to get to that second state of mind, which is truth. So how have I accepted myself? And if my acceptance of what has already been happening isn't working for me, and that's leading me up to anger, now I got to go back to that success reasoning, and now I have to modify something. So there's a process that we go through. So a lot of us, we've already been set in our perception of others, our perception of ourselves, our perception of ourselves in the world. So when we meet people, we're talking about millions and millions and millions and millions of bytes of information that transpires when I say, how you doing today? How I came to be is going to be reflected in how I am. And so I can be very nice, and all of a sudden you say something sideways, and now all of a sudden you see a whole nother aspect of the person.
Facts.
You understand? Because now something else was triggered inside of them, but then that person who's using transmutation to stay inside of their self-defense, their psychic self-defense, to stay inside of the identity, because we're going to be challenged, we're being tested all the time, but there has to be a process to get and stay inside of your healing, authentic identity. So sounds are what we come from, and sounds are also going to determine how we move, the rhythm of life, the things that we do, right? The music we listen to, the sounds from the people we love when they say our names. All of these things come into us, but no matter what comes to you, everything is actually already inside of you. For me to hear your voice has to touch my brain. For me to touch you, the reality is you've never touched anybody. There's a force field there. It looks like they're touching, but we don't actually touch. But that's just dealing with the science of being inside the all. So what is the point? That we have to understand the concepts that guides our lives, the concepts that is already being used in our lives, because those concepts are going to be critical and impact what? What are those concepts going to impact in our lives? The way we interact with each other. How are those concepts going to do that? Let's say the concept of yourself is that however you came to it, it deals with the fact that people can't be trusted. What if that's one of your concepts, is that people can't be trusted?
Work well with others, with the people, in a manner where take on a lot of take on a workload.
Mhm.
You know, it's how would you build a community if you don't trust anybody?
Right.
You know what I mean? There's no trust there. You can't, you know, work with someone seen as your brother or your sister, you know, and build.
For sure. Right? Anybody else? How the concepts that you've come to have, no matter how you got there, each of us has concepts. Our brain is based that way so that our brain isn't always working itself to death. We create patterns. You got patterns of thinking, patterns of feeling, patterns of behaving. All of those tie into a concept, right? So we understand how those concepts become important to how we do everything that we do. Does that not make sense?
Right.
So it starts to look at the youth. So my grandson has learned that music stops. And now he's paying attention.
Yeah, grandson. Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
Is that he doesn't want what he does wrong shared. Right? But in our family, there's always things that's going to be shared amongst family. If you did, it's our part of our learning and taking ownership. Because whatever happens in the family happens to all of the family. Right? And so he'll get embarrassed by it. But that's something that he's learned to do through how he was absorbing stuff. And I can go through the whole background of all of that. But the point being is that each of us have that. And 99% of us are not aware of how it's impacting us. And therefore, you have so many people that are dealing with anxiety, which are the concepts that we came with. Anxiety.
You said
We in terms of youth and society. But it's a response system. Right? But we'll get into that at a different time. So I want us to keep now, like you said, we have to know the concepts. So part of knowing our concepts is starting to navigate our consciousness. And we have to start to identify our truth. Right? So that's where your empowerment comes into. And so that truth is going to be based upon that discipline, that labor of discipline. And we can get into, my attempt was to make this brief so that we can get into a discussion, right? But as we start to look at our discipline, what is going to throw off your discipline? What throws off discipline?
Chaos.
What throws off chaos?
Distractions.
What are distractions?
Distractions are things that aren't on your path towards what your goal and your vision was intended for.
So how do you get distractions? Because if you said in your mind, this is what I'm doing. I'm about to do X, Y, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 7. Come back. I'm there. That's what I'm doing. So where does a distraction come from?
Change.
lack of focus.
How so it change?
Something that is different from what you usually do.
Okay. And so that's what impacts discipline. Okay. What are you thinking? Say that one more time.
I said it can.
Okay. So what throws off our discipline?
There's multiple things that can throw off this.
Right.
But it all comes back for me to self-awareness.
Okay.
Because I'll just use my own personal.
Okay.
So what can throw off distractions, or what can cause distractions? That's what.
Right. What throws off discipline?
Right. What'll throw off discipline? Well,
Lack of discipline.
But that means you don't have it, so you can't throw it off if you don't have it. Lack.
Disharmony.
So what throws off discipline?
Was that the original? That wasn't the original Penguin said.
He came over. He said distractions,
Yeah,
and
it
that's
was
why I
me,
asked
it
him
was
about the
me.
distractions.
So where
But
do
I said,
distractions come from?
what?
Like what makes a distraction?
No, that's what he
Make
went through there. But
something-
the
Oh, my bad.
question was, what throws off discipline? Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I have before gotten comfortable, right? And when you get comfortable, it's like this ease that happens. And, Say for instance, a person going to work or something, and they get so comfortable with coming on time that sometimes they be like, I'm gonna go pick this up, from the store before I go in today, and that might be the one day that caused them to be late. I guess that's something that has happened, but me personally, getting too comfortable has caused me to throw off my discipline, and whatever, because it's always something with myself that I'm like, okay, what am I focusing on? You said I'm going to do this, but after you make one thing and you be like, yes, I did something good. That was a great thing. I'm gonna take this victory.
Right.
A person could potentially get distracted from that. If that makes sense.
Right. Okay. So what else? Anybody else?
What focus?
Okay. Lack of focus. Those off discipline. Lazy. Okay. So what is discipline then?
Discipline's like a regimen, a routine you build.
Okay.
What? Your discipline is basically like rules you set for yourself, and you stay within those. I want to say those parameters.
Okay.
I'll say experience.
Discipline is experience. How so?
Well, discipline is going to be based on things that you actually experience. Whether it's you go stay within the boundaries of who and what you are, or you decide to go and experience things outside, do something different.
Okay.
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 I feel that leads up to discipline because of things that you say that you've done or whatever.
Right.
But I think that discipline, like you said, is based upon rules, is set in place as well as structure.
Right.
The ability to govern yourself.
Okay.
The ability to have control over yourself. No matter what thoughts come in, you have to have control over yourself.
Based on what if I'm just governing myself in randomness?
Based on harmony.
But why would you govern yourself in randomness?
Why not? People do it. You have the right to. You have the capacity.
That's true.
They call it being spontaneous.
What you say discipline yourself on randomness, like what is in your head, what is that ideal to you?
Right. I'm gonna get at that. So first I want to see, what is it based on first? What is it based on in order to have that governance? Because that would be the discipline.
For me, I would say
One more time.
like having a moral compass.
Okay.
Like, for instance, like you say, some people they just got a loose screw. But some things you look at and you be like, it don't feel right if I take X, Y, and Z that don't belong to me.
Right.
You can feel it. It's like you know what's right and what's wrong.
Right.
So having a moral compass, that's it
Okay.
for me.
All right. That sounds like conscience.
Definitely. I would definitely say my conscience is a moral compass. Because conscience to me is being a part of the all-knowing and understanding that if I'm able to keep myself there in that, then where am I at frequency-wise? I know that consciously, if I do X, Y, and Z and I feel a certain type of way about it, I now understand that is a feeling that I don't like to feel.
For sure. So if we put everything together, it's going to come back to even that to feel. How do I want to feel? What gives me the support to continue feeling that way, right? So that labor of discipline is getting at your specific rules that you can articulate for self-governance. In order for me to be committed to success and fulfillment, I have to specifically know what that looks like. What are my priorities? What are my standards? Right? I have to be able to get all of those things. So in a scenario in which, I normally, I have a routine and I broke the routine, but if my discipline, my rules were, if life moves me at a moment to attempt something different without getting off path, do it. Right? So inside of that, I've scripted out a way to sustain the outcomes that I want. If I want that self-governance, if, my conscience must inform my discipline, because our conscience is also something that's natural to us. But most of us don't make our decisions off of that conscience. So we start looking at that discipline or knowing exactly how I want to feel. So getting what I command starts with understanding what you want to be. That sound in your mind, those concepts. You got to know the concept. What concepts are mine? Our ancestors gave us attributes. 99 plus 1. Right? We had 100. You got a lot of different attributes that you get taught that start to also be concepts that keeps you on the healing side of the all. Right? Because the unhealing, what we might call evil and all this other stuff, is also a part of the all. You understand? It's a choice. What sounds do you that deal with how you want to be, how you want to feel, right? And that's that order is how I want to be. I have to think about that order. What is it that goes into that order? What did I give authority to over my life? And I have to understand how my self-awareness plays into that. I have to understand how my conscience plays into that. I have to understand how my imagination plays into that. I have to understand how my autonomous will plays into that. Those become the quality of the endowments of that center being. And then we got to look at how that starts to radiate out. And as it starts to radiate, it gets to that next level of what did I have to integrate into my life for this radiation that I want to come out? What must I feel in order to integrate it, in order to radiate it? How am I to be? And how I am to be, when I understand that concept, is how I meet you. Me and the brother talked about these patterns that we travel in. So on my logo, yes, there's an elephant. There's a double ankh on my logo. There's a sun. There's a pyramid. Because it starts with our mind shelter being that pyramid. The way we travel. The elephant doesn't forget its path. It encodes its memory in all that it does. You understand? And so we start to look at all of us are traveling. Sound travels. The immortalness of us, the eternal aspect of us, is the spark of our consciousness. That's what we're born inside of, this all. So I have to understand, to overstand, to implement what it is I want to be. What is my motive? What is my natural inclination? What am I inclined to do? Impelled to do from me. No external forces. Just me and the all. Building a union with the all is where the source of all good and healing is going to extend. I'm going to meet you at that point of unity. That's that outer path that I travel on as I'm daily walking my Maguraj, which comes out of my language, but I mean that pilgrimage, right? So we're all traveling constantly. Nothing is standing still except the all. We have that stillness in us, but that stillness created all motion. And at that root of that sound is also motion. At the root of our performance is motion. Everyone that's alive use their pattern of thinking, feeling, and behaving to go somewhere. To be around someone. But we don't have the specific discipline or the rules that should govern our lives for the system that we want. So each of us created a community. That's our village of success. We meet people at our outer realm, which is unity. And if they meet what is necessary, we bring them into our harmony. We bring them into our peace. We can develop happiness, which is a state, not an event. But we have to make sure that we're creating that order, because each of us are a universe. Each of us, in our own capacity, is a spectrum of the all. There's nothing outside the all, except nothing. You understand? So each of us are, as a capillary in our being, in our bodies, we are a spectrum of the all. So that self-awareness, knowledge of self, is your link. That's your union. As my master teacher and guide said, everybody's looking out their journey this way. Your journey is this way. Each of us are a priest of the source by the way we use ourselves. Each of us are a temple. We are a mobile temple. You are that entity that was built with no man's hands. But your thoughts have been carved by man's hands.
Come on. Talk about it. Talk about it.
You know, but that's the reality of stop letting people deal with how we commune with ourselves, right? We put my in front of self, but self is really an embodiment. You are myself. You are myself. You are myself. You are myself. But we start having problems with communing because of our own personal obstacles. We haven't put our own universe in order. We're not truly radiating from our center being. We're not truly walking around, and I'm coming to talk to that divine in you. I want to talk to the source of you, because I can only learn so much about me and the source. But I learn more about the source when I talk to you, when I engage you. That's that big bang. Those are the explosions when we get together. Understand? That's that union. When we meet on that unity and we keep encouraging each other. So you do something wrong to me, I can positively maintain the homeostasis of peace and harmony inside my being while I destroy your whole creation. You understand?
All right. Straight like that.
You know what I mean?
Operating straight.
That's the reality. You have to choose the sounds you act upon. That's why we had remembrance, the way that we incorporate our brain, encode our memory. Without memory, there's nothing. Without your memory, there's no yesterday, tomorrow, this next moment. Even now, you just forgot it the second it came out. So you can't even have communication without memory. You must remember words. It's the sound.
Brilliant.
Questions?
So you say sounds.
Yes.
You say sounds. So when I say to you,
Yep. Di kawan pasawat. Di kawan nafir kawat kalal. Yes, indeed. That is the sounds that resonates for all. Because the way that we put sounds together also impact the way our brains work. So they took our language till we stopped operating inside of a mindset that wouldn't have us talking crazy. Not even realizing that half the time that we actually break down the use of our words and communication, it doesn't even make sense. That's the spell.
Words that you can say something and don't even understand that it's a whole definition for that word.
Right.
It means something totally different, just a little bit sometimes. But some of them, it's like, dang, I would have never thought that that stood for, certain bearer, or,
Right.
you know, trustees and stuff
Yeah.
like that. You be looking at it like, oh, that mean that? Oh,
Mhm.
what does delivery mean? You know, some people may be, oh, delivery is how I give off something. Delivery can also be a whole nother thing. You know? So I
Yeah.
I agree.
And you know, you hear the old folks, that don't sound right. They felt the energy. That just doesn't sound right. They can't put their finger on nothing. Right? Because that sound is truth. There's truth in sound. Our brains get things at a certain pace. So the reason why, even in certain schools of psychology, you read, we stare, or you guys will see me staring at your face, because your brain and your subconscious is faster than your conscious. So before you can consciously say, stop making that face,
I'm already made.
The face is
right?
already
yeah, it's done. You know,
And I do that all the time.
you know, it's already there. You know, and those signals come, and that's where that psychic self-defense comes in. And so I was talked about what throws off our discipline is that to feel, right? Some things that we want to have might not be unhealthy for you, but it will take you off your path. Share, brother.
I went through an experience myself where we'll just say, I'm just going to call it what it is.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with myself, and God told me, He said, who told you to feel?
Mm.
And it was during a process of that, and I swear it hit me like a ton of bricks. He said, who gave you permission, or who told you that what you feel is feeling? Who told you to feel?
That's right.
So then I began, and it took me a minute, because it was like 2 years down the road. Now I'm looking at it, I said, I understand now. You know, think of a child. When a child falls, if the mother goes, oh, baby, that child may feel that energy go,
Right.
but when you look at the child, you say, come on, get up. And they sit there, oh, that's it? Oh, okay. All right, cool. So, to take it another step, he said, you need to observe. You don't have to react. You don't have to feel. You know, just observe. And there was a point where I even take it further, where it was like, you know, that's why in certain action movies, you know, like for instance, there was this movie called The Woman King, and they had staffs with arrows at the end, and they were pushing against each other. And it made so much sense to me. He said, do you understand where I'm coming from now? You know, and I said, okay, I see it. So, make a long story short, we can feel, you know, you could feel it, but who told you that it's not going to kill you? It's not going to, you know, you may feel something, but if you didn't know what pain was, how would you know how to identify it? If somebody didn't tell you, oh, that's painful, you know, yeah, you could feel something, and it might be a discomfort,
Right.
but it can be broken down in a better way. But I'm just saying,
You're doing well.
Yeah.
it was just amazing to me to be able to understand that sometimes it's better just to observe and just pay attention.
That witnessing self. And to that same point, like you mentioned about the child, but the point I was getting at earlier is that we start to teach them those signals of okay, not okay, how does this make me feel? So that kid fell and do this, you go and get them, make sure they're all right. All right, you good. And so it teaches them to respond to themselves a certain way. Because no matter what we do, their perception is going to take it a certain way. So if you got twins, both of them might not, you know, and they had stern parents. One twin might say, my parents was against my life. The other twin is like, you know what? That guidance was perfect, man. That's what allowed me to really get in touch with myself. It allowed me to see what my potential was and become potent. The other one is like, yo, that just was an oppressor. They was, you know, your perception is going to take that. Right?
So when the child say they want to murder that kid, how do you help them walk them through them stages?
Right.
That's what I want to get.
So now I want to identify if my child has a brain injury. Because like with serial killers and everything else, I need to identify if that's something that needs to be taken care of right now. I don't need to castigate or punish this child like, oh, that's a terrible thought to have. And I'm going to say that because of how it's going to make me feel. I don't want my kid out here killing people's cats. What they going to think, yo, I can't raise my kid. So we got all of these things that's going on in the same space. But I want to know, is this going to be a problem? Because if this person is anti-human, my child or not, this person has to be placed somewhere. You understand? And that's the reality of the hard decision making that community has. A cat can't, we talked about this, a cat that can't feed all their kittens, you'll see them eat them kittens. Now to the person on the outside, talking about those feelings, you've been taught, oh, that's not nice, that's not... But just save those kittens from experiencing starvation, so that those two sides, you start looking at what side that mother is saying, I'm saving. You understand? I'm saving. Whereas the observer isn't just observing, is making judgments. And now we have a society of people who can't actually live in our society. Because we started being connected with people who anybody can reproduce, anybody can do what they do. Whereas before we had a village, it was like, okay, we're not saying you can't reproduce, man, nobody will marry you. You understand? So it becomes like, hey, you know, the world is huge. Hey, keep it stepping.
That's what I feel.
I'm saying, you'll be all right.
Your whole objective for your community is what?
Me, I provide a service to help people's divinity, to see the divine. What I mean by divinity. My service is to help people see their state, their quality, and their degree of the scope of the meaning of their lives, so that they can activate their motive, their pure motive, right? Whatever that is, in order for that to radiate, to integrate principles and standards and precepts that support that, right? And then allow them to feel in accordance with that and allow them to be that on a daily basis, and then find their village of success. Find their we-ology is a term we use in my practice. We-ology. So I have to be able to say, we need to make sure we have economic stability. We have stuff for our kids. Find your we. So it's equipping people with the tools to navigate themselves. So there's 4 keys to thriving, right? That first one being investing. So what is this all for? What are you investing in? And it's helping you to understand your mission, your vision, your purpose, so that you can properly invest, so that you can build your we. We got to get back to collectivism, right? Whatever is necessary for your we, right? So I'm not telling you what to think, how to think. I'm saying let's think and let's build so that things can grow. You understand? And so let me finish. And so the second one is strategic thinking is the other key. So now I have to have a process to make what I'm investing in happen, right? So I help you get that strategic process, develop all of those pieces, behavior that's necessary, so on and so forth. And then whatever you plan to achieve or fulfill, you will, even if it's subconscious. So that same kid that's going through, that's causing problems you went to school with, and then you find out now they ain't locked up, they doing that. They're achieving exactly what they've been using themselves to achieve. Do they want to do that? Maybe not. But that's how they're using themselves. What you do is very important. And then the last piece on that 4th element is impactful self-education learning, right? How am I practicing myself? How am I practicing being the person that I want to be? And then getting the tools to make that happen. I provide all of those, been providing all of those over 12 years, so that each person can get that and find your we. And then your we can work with his we and her we, and now we start to, because we were made in tribes. We were made in, people say, oh, what's going to be the good thing? And they use the term black. What's going to be the best thing for black people? So you think about 40 million, 50 million people, you talking about doing something? You can't even get them all out there on Juneteenth. You understand? Who fall under that, right? Not everybody was emancipated. Some of us was already sovereign, right? And so that really doesn't resonate with that person. And I get that. But the point being is, build your village of success. It starts with you identifying your village and start to work and live of, for, and by each other. But because of the way we've been taught, it becomes difficult for people who even are friends to really do together, cooperatively, right? Okay, everybody here eats bell peppers, but we're not all chipping in, get more bell peppers. You understand? We're not doing that. Everybody here, might eat brown rice. Why we not buying boxes of brown rice?
Love brown rice.
Dividing them up. Each family, it changes, right? This week, your family divide everything up. Other families come pick it up. Next week, it's a different family. Everybody, you start to share. That's where it starts to manifest. Well, what do I do? I'm helping to build We-ology everywhere I go.
Beautiful.
You know what I mean? And you had another question.
No, it was more so a statement,
Mhm.
but I just used my personal experience based upon things that you said. So when you were talking about referencing to sound or whatever, and then consciousness and communication or whatever.
Right.
Well, as far as within our community, feel like, well, I've noticed that not all, but some of us don't know how to effectively communicate or whatever, and that's why we're kind of broken or whatever.
Right.
So me coming up and like growing up to be becoming an adult or whatever, I've noticed that certain words that were said to me, like you say, Sam, certain words that were said to me stuck or whatever. So with that being said, it's like, okay, I didn't get that, those words stuck, and I didn't get that what I needed to heal from or whatever. So then what I'm trying to transpire to be or whatever within, the help from the community is like, you know what I'm saying? I'm really not getting that. It's based upon, I guess, some people that I've been surrounded by that really, I guess, don't know how to effectively communicate. If that's what if you understand what I'm trying to get to, or whatever. So, like, that's why I was asking, like, what your purpose was as far as the community and like building us up or whatever.
Okay, so specifically, I work with persons, I work with couples, I work with entrepreneurs, I work with community developers, anyone that works with human beings, because I'm a performance expert. So helping people do what it is that they want to do. So it goes right back to getting what you command, getting what you want, and getting what you know you deserve. And at the root of that will be communication. But it starts with how I communicate with myself. So you may be communicating with people whose ineffective communication with themselves is creating a block, right? So initially, because you mentioned some things about your nonprofit, so I'm going to kind of bring it together. So what I would do from a consulting perspective would be to set up a strategy of teaching people how to talk with you about what you're offering. So that would become a project in of its own on how you would grassroots with the people that you need to reach, because they might not know how to accept help. So I'm going to first teach you how to get the help that you need, right? So you look at mental health and there's a stigma, people getting mental health, right? So in the early stages of even my practice, I wasn't talking to a group of people about mental health. I talked to men about making sure they were able to live in their lives the way that they wanted to live. And they might not be using the right strategy to make that happen. Right? And so, not that he knows that I did this stuff for community before. Right? And so, what happens is now, these brothers who would never go to counseling will come in. We start talking about what works, what doesn't work, how you use yourself. So you have to teach the community that you want to engage how to be engaged. Does that make any sense? Right?
Wow.
And so that's when you say, what do? I would help you create a very specific strategy for that. Like I said, anything that I say, I can bring you to and bring it out. Right? So that would be that number one kicker. And then the same piece that's internal with you, those sounds, it becomes not removing the sound, but changing the way you engage that sound. You have to reframe it. You have to put it into a new package. And that goes right back to that discipline. Because now you start to understand how you want to feel. How can I take that? Because like I said, each person naturally develop rules. So that kid that fell down, kept getting hit, they might naturally take that in that, when I'm down and I'm hurting, somebody's going to be there to pick me up and show me that I matter. Let's say that person wound up internalizing that I only matter when other people help me. Let's say that's how it comes down as a thought and a feeling for them. So now we're not going to change that. We're going to create a new piece around that. That, instead of it just being that I only matter when other people come to help me. No, I matter at all times and I am open to the help that others can provide. Right? And so we don't want to change that which you had because it's already a part of you naturally. It's part of your subconscious. It's powerful. We're just going to attach a new meaning to it so that also goes from your conscious to your unconscious, and the unconscious mind or the subconscious mind is the fastest, best computer on this planet. So we're going to get it back there quicker, right? And so even when you're helping students learn how to memorize stuff and do things, from cognitive psychology, the same thing we do. So everybody's memorized 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. So now if I was to associate something with those letters, it's going to get to your long-term memory quicker. So helping and finding out what you've memorized and what you've encoded gets there. So not only are you going to need to teach the people that you want to engage how to be engaged, you're going to have to re-govern yourself the way that you need to be governed and turn that into power. Be empowered by the things that gave you pain. Because all of our obstacles, just on the other side is our success. Because you remove the obstacle, you should be flowing. Your obstacles are signals. But they taught us that's anxiety. They taught us all of these other things. That's not a natural flow. It's us not doing what we say in our minds represents us. You ain't see that though, they're crazy, because you look back over here like, okay.
No, it just
Yeah.
things happen. So I can.
For sure. Yeah. I got brothers that do that too. That's why I was like, okay, somebody else is here with us. Yeah.
That's basically what it is.
Right, yeah.
It chimed in and I
Yeah.
loved it because it started over here and it got my attention and then it's been
Yeah.
kind of.
True indeed. So that's what I would say is embrace what is you and then apply its healing force. Right? And so there's the healing forces for our functioning through the all. And then there's also forces through the all that's going to be unhealing. We focus in my culture on the healing aspects. Right? And that's how we bring about change. Change happens all the time. It's a new universe right now. Right now. Right now. Just the beauty in the fact that you can reset now, and now, and now. But what you hold on to with your memory is that luggage. They won't even let you travel. They're like, hey, we ain't gonna let you pay for all that luggage. You see, because what holds a lot of us back, my master teacher said this once before. He said, look, we was telling you, like, we're about to move. We're going to Africa. We're going to be in a land of peace. We'll have everything you want. Whatever's in your mind is going to be what you want, right? Let's go. Most people won't be able to go because they're trying to bring their couch, my car, my everything. Everybody got stuff, inanimate things that they have to take to their peace.
He called that going through the eye of the needle.
Exactly. You understand? And that's where a lot of us are. They're like, I could. Man.
That's so interesting because you said it has everything that you want on the other side.
Exactly.
People are still thinking that what they want is what they
Yeah.
have. When if your favorite piece is on this side, it's gonna be on that side too. But
Exactly. But that's what we are, though, as human beings, right? The lack of something creates movement. Your perception of what that lack is determines where you're moving to or from. And that can impact your discipline. What are you obedient to? That's like a curse word, right? I'm obedient to my motives, my pure motive, my values, the standard, what allows me to have my divinity, my ability to be in a state and quality and degree of self-awareness, the ability to use my imagination in alignment with that purpose. And so even that first module or that book that I have, you're called to fight for your purpose and to defend your purpose. That's that first piece. You understand? And it comes from, I got to get here. That center being. The all gave you everything you need. Gave me the capacity to find food. And the beautiful thing in that is that if you've been fasting, your body is going to send more oxygen and blood to your brain because your body is saying you too stupid to find food. Here's some more stuff with creativity, right? So, but the wise one recognizes that I'm going to fast to get that blessing, and I'm going to work, I'm going to meditate. So all spiritual pieces have that fast before you get here. So you got that energies, right? So that's what we want to get back to in terms of how we commune. And then recognize that some people don't care about that. But they can be just as loving, just as caring, just as productive. To your point, come on in. Teach me that I should let you go. I don't have to let you go. I'm going to meet you at my unity. If we can't unify, may peace and blessings be upon your travels. Because you are still a child of the source. You are still the source in your spectrum, but not the one I want around me. You know what I mean? Yeah. A lion is, of the source. I'm not trying to go rub his beard. I'm not trying to make a show, trying to see how wild they are. No. And then get mad when they, people domesticate dogs. A dog bites somebody, they put the dog down. Why are we putting this dog down for what it does?
Exactly. What energy did that dog feel from you? Not you, but
a
specific person.
You see?
Yeah.
So it's like if you don't want dogs around, then don't put dogs around. Don't put them around and say they got to be other than their nature.
Because they gonna protect.
Yeah.
Period.
And that's what you do to your children. You take them into a toy store, never taught them how to manage themselves, and say, no, you better not touch nothing. How in the... You're going to bring me here with all of this and tell me not to... Right. And so we start looking at whose society, whose community we're in, right? And then recognizing that the reality of the facts are that to be in America, rules and legislation wise, you have everything you need. It's written in the Constitution. If you don't think that your children are getting what they need, you can actually start your own school. You can start your own society. And I come from a community that did it, but they chased us out. That's a whole nother conversation, right? You only need a certain amount of acreage to have your own county. Every rule you need is here. But guess what they're also able to count on?
Your ignorance, in my opinion.
Yeah.
A person's ignorance of what they don't know or don't understand,
Yeah.
or not willing to pick up a book and read. Key word, Constitution.
What the sister said. Communication. We can't communicate. Oh, you don't go to my church, so I ain't trying to work with y'all. Or we have so many reasons to put up blocks. So many. And then in that same breath, have a complaint about what's not working. And you can be saying to that same person giving that complaint, be like, yo, can I work with you? Let me get back with you. You understand? That's a reality. So everything that we need in America is already in place. But the people coming together, building your we-ology, building your village. You understand? It's all moving the same. I mean, it's as simple as everybody moving in the same complex. We're going to get one Xfinity bill. You understand? One grocery bill. And then understand, you know what, this person want to eat that over there. That's fine. You know what I mean? We'll group it in. We'll let you do what you do. But we're not going to let you hurt yourself. Like I said, anything that's anti-human, that might be something I just don't like. Right? And sometimes you got to suck it up. You got to realize that that's my stuff. Once again, he got this new kick where he want to do this thing with his voice. I can't take it.
Why?
That's been my challenge. I'm like, yo, I'm going to make him stop. He enjoys it. It's just bothering the hell out of me. That's my stuff. But I did tell him, we're going to do space. You better not do it out in public. You know what I mean? But I acknowledge and recognize it's mine. I don't want to have you think that you create something. And he might become, a producer. He might do different things and them sounds. I don't want to be the one that hinders that because it's my thing. Go to your room, handle that. But that comes back to, like I said, with our consciousness, that sound, that knowing the concepts that we want to rule our lives, and then recognizing we're focal beings. Wherever we place our eyes and our mind's eye, so goes our energy, our time usage. So those phones, you get into a mindlessness state. And there's people that just like, and you have just disrespected the source of existence that gave you the ability, capacity to think. And you're just using it not to think, which is your choice still. But don't be a problem for other people. You see? And so with all of these things, we recognize that we live in a society that's very tightly wound. Person cuts in front of you, not on purpose. You're just being a poor driver. And now you're willing to change everybody's lives. You'll shoot, you'll fight, you'll chase them down because of these signals and where that person is. People are living through their pain. I refuse to make decisions based upon my pain. That's why you have to identify and articulate what is your reasons.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
It's amazing. I love that. This is a conversation I have with good brother Woods, this establishment.
Big up royalty.
But we were talking about that. It's amazing how we cut from a different cloth. We are all on our journeys. We taking different routes, different roads, but it's still that same destination.
Right.
She mentioned your why, and then you just brought it back to where you brought it back to, and it's just like it's amazing how you can explain it your way and I can understand it. She can explain it her way and I can understand it. You can explain it your way and I can understand it. And having the ability to interact in a way where I'm not disagreeing, I'm not saying, well, I don't agree with what you said. No, that is your perception. That is your understanding. And I just learned some knowledge from it. That don't mean if I can either take it and eat it, or I could take it and just be like, okay, I wouldn't necessarily do that, but more power to you. And I agree. I understand. That's cool. And some people, they don't understand the power and unity of just
Exactly.
Just let, if that's what he's expressing or she is expressing, it should be okay. It's for it to be expressed in that way or that manner. It's just the awareness that we have with ourselves and how we respond to certain things.
Exactly.
And I would tell her all the time, I said, God put me through a lesson. He said, you can, why am I drawing a blank? Anyways, make a longer story short. I can't control what other people do and how they act, but I can respond how I react to it and what I do within myself.
Right.
Oh my goodness, it's like so many different doors opened up then, because just like you said, somebody could be doing all that kind of craziness and you destroying their mess just from what you doing. Like, okay, I'm gonna destroy all of that. That's cool,
Exactly.
And I love that. And to piggyback off what you were saying, it was a thought that came to my mind. I said, man, what happened to the days of, she was actually got me thinking about it too, by way of Mississippi.
Right.
And we were talking about vegetables and fruits, and man, I want to make a garden. I said, you know what? It was a person that made a garden where I used to live, and the thought of, man, it'd be amazing if I could just go to Miss XYZ house and get the cabbage, and then go to Tom house and go get the greens and the tomatoes.
Exactly.
And in exchange, I'm giving them some of these beans that I had over here, some of these seeds of X, Y, and Z that I had. That bartering system is amazing to me, because it's like you said, so many people can be in one place and we all got one bill.
Exactly.
One internet bill. That's it.
Exactly.
But where the food comes from, she's providing the watermelons, I provide the peaches. We exchange amongst each other.
Exactly.
We all can exchange.
Exactly.
And
that's community.
But then back to what she said, some folks just don't get it. They're it's, and then I guess that's what I look at universally as one of the things where you don't cast your pearls on the swine.
Right.
And just because they're not ready yet doesn't mean that I can't wait, or not. I don't even have to wait. That I can't continue on my journey until they get to a point where they are to be able to comprehend what's actually going on and be able to put themselves in that position. Because otherwise, that just means the universe knows, God knows. Hey, that person got a little more growing up to do. You know, so it's not my responsibility, and I don't need to push those things on that person. But
for sure.
I'm just, it's amazing how everything that we talking about has tied into what you were talking about, things that you were talking about that we didn't know you were going to be talking about, tied to things that our beliefs is. Right. So I like that kind of thing.
Sure did.
Amazing.
And that's the power.
Thank
That's
you.
the power in we.
I love it. Thank you, God.
For what
Thank
you
you,
are doing
God.
in our community, and I'm rocking with the We-ology.
True indeed, and that's where it is, because that's the strong point. Is the fact that we all, at the source of everything, we must eat, but we don't do the most basic. You go to our community, everybody, for the most part, brush their teeth, right? Use toilet paper, right? But we're not even making the most basic. And going back to the point of, well, we're only going to buy from each other. Well, you know what? You're gonna storehouse and get all toilet tissue. Everybody's gonna buy their toilet tissue through you. And then with the food, you get cabbage. We do all of that. that changes the game. That changes the way power works. Now I'm not limited to what you offer. Now I create meals and recipes based upon what we grow. We start to live in that system. And that's the simplest thing to do. It literally takes seeds. Right? Mental, everything that happens physically also has to happen mentally. And that first seed is I want to eat. So can we have a conversation around eating? You understand? That's what the simplicity of it gets. And so, yeah, so like I said, it's a pleasure for me to have the ability that the source put on my motive to embrace the source. And that's what my job is to touch the source inside of each person, to help them find their divinity, right? So that our survival is going to be based upon us. I don't care if there's 6 We-ology Village of Success communities, but that's where we start to buy from each other and sell to everybody else, right? And that's how you start to keep money in your community. That's how you ensure generational wealth. Not from a financial sense, from the only sense that matters is a higher level of consciousness, engagement, because that higher level being will always be able to get their means and their needs. We start looking at things from the point of resources as the source created, we'll get all we need. But to your point, we'll find people who are just like, hey, just show me the money. It's the same person sitting in pain. That sometimes what we wish doesn't factor or align with what we want. So I want everybody to do right. However, the way I act, nobody's gonna do right with me. You see, but I want people to work with me. But I can't get out of my own way because of those messages I learned early. And so our habits are stronger than our will. You understand? Because your will is part of your subconscious, that unconscious, that fast computer. If you don't know that, try to cut out something you like doing. We have 12 daily principles. One of our daily principles is fasting. So just pick anything, something that you really like, and don't do it. Don't do it for that day. And see the messages your mind is going to send to you, like excuses to what is this going to prove anyway? Just go ahead and engage in it. This ain't proving it. Your mind is always going to justify its wants. And those habits that might have been created before we ever thought about it or knew about it, that we never addressed because they're happening below our consciousness. We're just reacting. Until we do that through a fasting way, then we can recognize what we want to turn back into our subconscious. And so my master teacher once he said, no, I want you to negate everything for this whole next day. Just say no to everything first. Because it's going to force you to do what? Think about it. Oh, I'm going to go brush my teeth. No, I'm not. Hell, I'm not. Right? And then you start thinking about your why, right? Or your yes. And that yes being using from, the old 5% doctrine, Y equals self. And it's just pertinent, right? So you get to your why is going to start equaling how you use yourself. Is that why I want to use myself? And you might start modifying things, right? So, yeah, it's about the impact that we make to ourselves and allow others. You know what I mean? So I don't carried on